All right, what is up, Rundown listeners? This is Ben here with Justin, and we are bringing you guys another episode. Kind of a somber start as why don't we just get right into the breaking news? Legendary Eagles center Jason Kelce has announced his retirement from the NFL. Um, you
I'm
know,
doing I'm doing well, by the way. Just you didn't ask this time,
oh
but
yeah,
I'm
right,
doing
right.
well.
Well, I just assumed.
Okay.
um, anyway, yeah, Justin's here. He's doing well. So Jason Kelsey's career accolades: he is a six-time All-Pro. He is a seven-time Pro Bowler. He is a Super Bowl champion. He started 193 out of 193 career games. He was a six-time team captain. Justin, I got to tell you, this didn't shock me. I mean, I think this is like the second or third season in a row that he's contemplated retirement, but it's still sad to see a legend like that go. So, what was your reaction to the news?
Yeah, man, it sucks. It's I honestly I think he's got to be one of the best centers of all time, if not the best. Off the top of my head, I can't name like another good center because
It's a
it's the
center.
center position. Yeah, uh, but just he's just a legend at that position, and it's tough because he really bolstered that offensive line, and like you said, this isn't really a shock, but you know, yeah, it was a hell of a career by him, especially as he was a walk-on linebacker at the University of Cincinnati, and turned into this, so
For
pretty
sure.
impressive.
Gold jacket with his name on it whenever he's eligible for the Hall of Fame, for sure.
He'll be a first ballot, no
Oh,
questions.
absolutely. Um, I did just have a funny thought. I think the NFL decided not to ban the tush push, so Jason Kelsey decided, "No, I got this, guys. I'll make sure it gets stopped," because he was a big reason why it was successful, and I don't see them continuing that with him gone. Or I mean,
Yeah,
I say that they probably will, but I can't imagine it going as well as it did.
right.
So, moving on to another bit of news, the Atlanta Falcons are the current favorites to land Vikings free agent quarterback Kirk Cousins, after Cousins and the Vikings seem to be far apart on a deal. I will have more on this later, but as it stands right now, Atlanta really feels like one of those teams that is a quarterback away from being relevant and like good. I mean, we talked about this a few weeks ago. Like, they have the weapons. They're really just missing that quarterback, as unfortunately, I think Desmond Ritter proved he is not that guy, pal. So, as much as I'm sure it sucks to see a UC legend.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, probably one of the best quarterbacks to ever come through the University of Cincinnati.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there are two ways to look at it. I mean, one, I think he definitely was thrust into the fire too early. He was definitely a project quarterback at best. And in the same vein as that, like, I think we've seen probably the ceiling of his, and so I mean, he can get better, but I think we know kind of what he is at this point. So, back to Kirk Cousins though. Um, I think Atlanta's a good fit for him, and we can talk more later on in the free agency section. But yeah, I'm honestly kind of shocked that Kirk and the Vikings are kind of far apart on a deal. I think all reports as of last week were kind of leaning more in the vein of him potentially returning.
Yeah, to me, it feels like it's more so Minnesota that isn't willing to try to make a deal happen here. From everything that's been said, it seems like Kirk Cousins loves Minnesota. He wants to be there. He enjoys living there with his family. But it just doesn't seem like Minnesota's willing to put in the effort to make a deal happen. And honestly, if he goes to Atlanta, I would pick Atlanta to win that division
Oh, easily.
because you give me Kirk Cousins with Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan Robinson. And they also had a very solid offensive. I'm not going to call them great, but a very solid offensive line. They have some good pieces on the defensive
I was about
side.
to say their defense was like one of the top like 6 or 7 in fantasy for a good portion of the year.
Yeah, I
I
mean
have
they
been
have
for a
some good
while.
pieces on that side, and I mean, given the stage of the Panthers, questions about can Baker Mayfield, will they even reach a deal, because he still hasn't reached a deal with the Bucks, but will he be able to duplicate what he did this year? And then just the Saints, I don't
This
even know what to do with them.
Harlan calls them the Aints, and
Yeah.
well,
So, given the rest of that division, I think they would be the clear-cut favorite to win the NFC South if they land Kirk Cousins.
yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with you. Like I said, we can talk a little bit more about that later. For now, we'll move on. Speaking of moving on, Broncos country, it's over. The Denver Broncos are moving on from quarterback Russell Wilson, cutting him this week. This will cause the Broncos to have an $85 million cap hit in dead money. So, for those of you that don't know, dead money is like money spent on players, coaches no longer with the team. This is the largest cap hit in NFL history, and it is more than double the second largest. The second largest was Matt Ryan with the Falcons. I think it was 40 million, 41 million, something like that. So, yeesh.
In the wise words of both of our just favorite female rapper, Lizzo, it's about damn time.
Yeah, I think the thing is, I think Russell Wilson was never going to work with Sean Payton. Russ is almost like a politician. Like, he acts like he's running for office. He's very like optimistic all the time. Things are great. And Sean Payton's a realist. And so Sean Payton is very much, cut the bullshit. Let's just get in and get it done. And that's just not Russ. And I think we saw a lot of improvement in Russell Wilson. I mean, Russell Wilson a year ago with Nat Hackett, there was no market for him. None. And now, I mean, there are potentially a couple teams that I think could benefit from having Russell Wilson, at least as a bridge guy, if nothing else. I agree with Colin Cowherd. It's like the fall of Russell Wilson with Nathaniel Hackett. I think what hurt him was trying to become a pocket passer in that system, because he definitely he was a B plus A minus quarterback when he was in Seattle, and then I don't buy that he was as bad as he was his first year in Denver, because he was a B plus A minus quarterback the year prior and then was awful. And that's unprecedented. We just don't see quarterbacks just fall off a cliff like that. So I definitely think he can benefit a team. But if you're expecting to get 2012 to 2015 Russell Wilson, you're just not going to get that. So I don't know what. I know you said about damn time. Did you have any other thoughts on that news, or was that pretty much it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough to see what Russell Wilson's going to do or where he's going to go from here, because obviously he is on the tail end of his career. So it'll just be interesting to kind of see, what happens. I know obviously we'll talk a little bit more about him later on. So yeah, that's kind of all I got.
I gotcha. No worries. Moving on, Mike Evans, wide receiver, has signed a 2-year, $52 million extension with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This doesn't really surprise me, honestly. I know there were rumors of him potentially moving on to Kansas City or other places. And for me, it's just why? He's on the tail end of his prime, but he's going on year 52 in a row of having 1,000-yard season,
basically
something like that. He's 10 or something like that, right? It's crazy.
I think this past season was 11.
11, yeah. So he obviously still has a lot left in the tank. I think this was the smartest move for him, and honestly for the team, because you've got a wide receiver who's familiar with your system and gets another year under your quarterback, assuming they re-sign Baker, which I think we would agree is probably their smartest move they could make at quarterback. So I like this move a lot. And yeah, that's kind of all I really had there for that one.
Yeah, I mean, you summed it up. You're good.
Cool. And then the rest of our breaking news, we had a couple franchise tags that I saw, like the Panthers tagged Brian Burns, edge rusher. The Jaguars franchise tagged Josh Allen. The Colts franchise tagged Michael Pittman Jr. Or a couple other guys that got tagged. And then the one that honestly surprised me a little bit was that the Seattle Seahawks released both Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs. Now, Quandre Diggs didn't have necessarily the best season, but it just feels like losing both of those guys is kind of a bold strategy whenever Seattle's not exactly great on defense right now. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But both of those guys, I think, could bring a veteran presence to any locker room. Like, honestly, I wouldn't mind if the Titans signed one of the two of them, because we could definitely use some help in that aspect. So what was your reaction to this news? Because this one kind of caught me off guard a bit.
Yeah, it's definitely surprising, but the only thing that I can really chalk it up to is, maybe the new coach coming in just kind of wants a fresh start.
Yeah.
And I don't know what their contracts look like. Maybe they wanted to clear up some cap space to potentially go after a big free agent signing on the defensive side. Those are the only two reasons as to why I think that this would happen. And maybe they just saw some guys kind of on the come up that they believe are going to be able to give them the same production that those two gave them, or that those two gave the Seahawks. So yeah, it's definitely interesting, and like you said, I think they're going to give a good locker room presence to any team that potentially picks them up. It'll be hard to believe that either of these guys go without a job next year.
Yeah, I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
So, I can think of like the Eagles, the Titans. Honestly, Cincinnati could probably use
31 other teams.
Yeah, there are many teams that could use them, if nothing else, for the leadership presence alone and to help build up some young guys. And then this one was breaking news as well, but I wanted it to be a topic as well because I know he has been your favorite player for a long time. But to turn one of my favorite sports calls ever to the opposite, it was truly an imperfect ending to a non-historic day, as Russell Westbrook is now out for an undetermined amount of time with a fractured hand. I saw, I think, a minimum of 6 weeks, potentially longer, depending on how bad it was. I haven't seen any updates, so I don't know if he had it looked at, like what it was. I wrote this whenever I saw the news, and I just haven't seen any updates on it since then. I think Russ, I hate this because I think he was a lock for Sixth Man of the Year. And I think he is a key piece for the Clippers a lot more than you might think. Mostly because he gives them a boost of energy off the bench. And you just hate to see it. Like, Russ is one of those players that, like, I've grown to love as time has gone on, because he's just fun. He's a fun watch, man. It's hard to root against the guy, especially with the way, like, things ended with him and Kevin Durant, and then he bounced around from team to team, and then got to play for his childhood favorite team in the Lakers, and then that didn't work out, and then he's on the Clippers, and then they trade for James Harden, and so then he has to go to the bench, and he's just had kind of a roller coaster of a career, but a lot of great moments, and you hate to see stuff like this happen to a guy like that. So I do have a question which you can address at any point, but I'll give you the floor for your favorite player. But what does losing Westbrook mean for the Los Angeles Clippers?
Yeah, like you said, I think it's a lot bigger than people want to give credit to. Like you said, I think he gives such a big burst of energy off the bench, and he's kind of the facilitator for that second team that comes in. And while he isn't having, like, statistically the greatest season he's ever had, granted his greatest statistical season was 32, 11, and 11.
I was about to say, yeah, he averaged a triple-double like 4 out of 5 years. So
yeah. So, obviously he's not having just, like, blow you off the court phenomenal season. But to be fair, he's coming off the bench and playing less minutes. And it just sucks because, he he did all of these things with OKC, and then, like you said, bounced around to Washington and Houston and the Lakers, and now with the Clippers, and you finally thought like, hey, he has a shot to play meaningful minutes for a good team, and then they trade for James Harden, and 1 second, sorry, and then they trade for James Harden, and it's like, well, now what? And I think he's done a really phenomenal job at embracing that come off the bench guy, and he didn't take it personal. I think a lot of guys, given the stardom that he had in the league for 4 years, a lot of guys would not stick around and say, hey, I'm cool coming off the bench. They're gonna say, no, trade me. There's a place in the league that I could start. But he's been willing to take a seat to James Harden and come off the bench and just be that guy for the second team, and it's been fun to watch. It has been. So 6 weeks from now puts him about mid-April. So you're probably talking end of the first round, maybe start of the second round if they make it that far, is when he comes back. And even then, it's, what kind of form is he going to be in? Is he going to get the minutes again? Because, I mean, with a broken hand, you're able to stay in basketball shape, but you're not able to, get the passes and the jump shots and all of that other stuff, and just the chemistry with the team, missing that much time. Yeah. So it sucks, because he's like you said, he's one of my favorite players, probably between him and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, just because he's on my favorite team. So yeah, it's tough
for sure. You brought up a good point about his willingness to come off the bench, and if you remember, that wasn't necessarily his attitude when he was with the Lakers. I remember there being a lot more kind of, not that he was ever like not good, you know what I mean? Like, not that he was ever a bad teammate about it, but I just remember there being a lot more pushback with him. Like, I don't want to come off the bench. And I think Russ did what Carmelo Anthony should have done. Carmelo Anthony had, he could have had 5 more great years in the league if he would have just been self-aware enough to know, okay, I need to change my game and I need to be able to come off the bench. And so for Russ to kind of recognize where he's at in his career and know, like, I can't give you 40, 45 explosive minutes anymore, but I can give you 28. Like, I can give you 28 really damn good minutes. Like, I love that, and I think he's such a good teammate, because it was his idea when James Harden came there to be like, put me on the bench, like let him start, and I will come off the bench. Like, I just think that speaks a lot to his character and his locker room presence, and it just sucks. Can't overstate that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's that news. Let's move on to some somber news for my team, as the Boston Celtics turned the Golden State.
Sending up a prayer.
Yeah, the Boston Celtics turned the Golden State Warriors into a high school junior varsity team. They beat them 140-88. I checked ESPN at halftime of that game because I was like, maybe if it's a good game, I'll turn it on. It was 89-38. It was 80 something to 38. 82 to 38. What? So right away, Steph had a bad game. Well, he had a bad half because he didn't play after halftime, which there was no point. They were down 50. Steph was 2 from 13 or 2 of 13 from the floor. He was 0 of 9 from 3. Couldn't anybody buy a bucket on that team except for Lester Quinones for some reason. Yeah, nah, bro, he's a solid like 12th man.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say
I
12th
heard
man.
that. This is one of those games where they've been on a long stretch of hard games, and I think this was a long road trip. Like I don't think they've been home for a while, so it's one of those losses where like it's a lot. Anytime you get run over by 50, it's you think twice about it, but I don't know necessarily that it told me anything about the Warriors that I didn't already know. We know that they live and die by Steph. I think that's been apparent this year. They have some good pieces around him, like Jonathan Kuminga is coming into his own, but he's still young. He's going to have some off nights, and I think it just so happened that all of their guys had an off night at the same time. That happens every now and then. As far as the Celtics, this is Boston's third win by 50-plus points. Colin Cowherd said that the Celtics have become the Buffalo Bills. And I thought that was so interesting because they're a great regular season team, and they're going to do well in the playoffs until the lights shine the brightest. And I don't necessarily agree to the extent of that, but I think there is some truth there. I definitely think they need to win a title soon to be taken seriously as a true, like, this is a great team, but are the Celtics the unquestioned best team in the NBA right now?
I think yes. They're 7 games ahead of anybody else in the NBA. They have the 5th best point differential ever. Not just currently, not just in the last 10 years. The 5th best point differential ever. Like, that's impressive. So, yeah, I think they're the best team in the NBA, and I don't think it's close. But for me to say that seriously, they have to do something in the playoffs.
Right. And
I know they made it to the finals a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I know they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and it just feels like they can't get over the hump with the guys they have. And maybe with the addition of Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday, they can. But until we see that, I don't know. Yes, they're the best team in the NBA, but would I pick them to win the title right now? No, I would still pick Denver.
Let me throw a counterpoint there too. They've got Drew Holiday, sure, but he's not getting any younger.
No, he's what,
34? 34, I think. This feels like the year.
But he's 34. Kristaps Porzingis has a history of getting injured at key moments.
Who is Chingus Pingus?
Jaylen Brown has a history of shrinking.
Also
in
not
big moments.
Also not being able to use the left half of his body at all.
Exactly. And Tatum, he's a fantastic player, but I don't know where I stand on him right now. He's a great player, but has he done anything?
I do think if he doesn't get hurt half a second into the game 7 last year, I definitely think they beat Miami and go on to the finals. But I don't think they beat Denver last year. Last year was Denver's year. I don't think there's any...
Yeah, nobody was beating Denver.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question there. The Lakers were, I think, matched up the best against Denver, and they got swept. But they got swept by, I think, a total of, 5 points.
Oh, yeah, every game was close.
It was ridiculous. But that's part of why I say that, the Lakers match up so well with Denver is because every single game looks exactly the same. They play their butts off for 44, 45 minutes, and then the last 3 to 4 minutes, Denver is able to take over.
Because they're younger and they're just a deeper
right.
team.
Well, and when your 4th best player is Aaron Gordon.
or Contavious Caldwell
or
Pope.
KCP or Michael Porter Jr., who shot like 10 for 10 the other day to start the game against the Lakers. Like, what? Like, Denver's just one of those teams that, like, the Lakers match up well, but it is going to take a perfect series from the Lakers and Denver having a couple bad nights for that to go differently. Like, it's just it's interesting what the Western Conference is right now.
Yeah.
So let's move on. Speaking of the Western Conference, I put this topic in here just for you, buddy. The Oklahoma City Thunder are the NBA Western Conference number 2 seed. I need you to know that I typed out my notes and I said that they were the number 1 seed, and then they had to go and lose to the Lakers.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
So Shai Gilgeous-Alexander currently has the second best odds to be NBA MVP behind Nikola Jokic. SGA is potentially going to just get screwed over by the fact that Nikola Jokic is on the earth at the same time as him, because listen to his stats for the season. He's averaging 31.1 points, 5.6 rebounds, 6.5 assists, 2.2 steals, and 1 block. He's shooting 54.6% from the floor and 38% from 3.
And in the month of February, he shot 55.6 from 3.
Yeah. Any other year, that's MVP, and it's not even close. But, of course, he's got the laziest triple-double ever that he's competing with. On top of Shai, you've also got Chet, who's averaging 17.7 rebounds, 3 assists on the year. OKC is good. They're good. I think their main problem is that they're still young. And that would be my only concern with them, is them potentially having that inexperience come into play. The Timberwolves are half a game ahead of them for the 1 seed. Justin, I want your completely unbiased, not at all fandom playing into this opinion here. Is OKC a fraud, or are they a legit contender, and what is their ceiling?
I think their ceiling is a championship this year. I think they definitely have the team to do it. The only thing that is holding me back from saying that they're a legit contender, but I don't think they're a fraud. I think they're in the middle simply because they're young. But the only thing holding me back from saying they're a legit contender is their lack of size. I mean, Chet Holmgren, he's a fantastic player, and I know he's like 7'3", but he's 7'3" and averaging 7 rebounds a game.
Yeah, he's also 7'3" and like 100 pounds, so...
Yeah, if you saw... And I watched the fourth quarter of that Suns Thunder game where Yusuf Nurkic had 35 rebounds against the Thunder. Every single opportunity that the ball was put up into the air on a shot, Yusuf Nurkic was throwing Chet around, throwing him around. It looked like a dad out there playing hoops with his 6-year-old kid. Boxing him out, sending him to the ground.
I just need you to one more time tell me how many rebounds that Yusuf Nurkic had.
He had 14 points, 35 rebounds, which was a Suns franchise record, and 4 assists. 35 rebounds, yeah.
Man, your team had Yusuf Nurkic out there looking like prime Wilt Chamberlain.
So, their lack of size, especially against a team like Denver, who is a big team. I mean, Michael Porter Jr. is their 3, and he's 6'10". And Minnesota, who has Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns as their 4 and 5. I think that they match up well against those teams. I just think coming down the stretch into the playoffs, if it's game 6 and it's a do or die, win or go home, and they need a stop, and it's tough because they do play well defensively, but I just don't know if I trust them to, if a shot is missed, get the rebound.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yusuf Nurkic had like 14 offensive rebounds,
Now,
which is just crazy.
yeah, it's
So
ridiculous.
that's what scares me.
Now, I will say they are 24-9 at home. They're 18-13 on the road, and they're 26-15 in conference games. Over their last 10, they're 7-3, and on the season they're averaging 120 points per game scored, and they're giving up 113.3. So, having the positive point differential will help them because offensively they can hang with anybody. It's just unfortunately with Denver, especially Denver, you know, when you got Jokic on the other end, if you're not getting, you know, if you're not out rebounding Denver, or at least competing with them rebound wise, you're gonna get run
You're
off
not
the
winning.
you're,
Yeah,
you're gonna get run off the floor. Because the last thing you need is for Jokic to get 14, 15, 16 rebounds. You think if Yusuf Nurkic could get 35, Jokic is going to get 50.
I will say though, the one thing that kind of gives me hope is I believe the Thunder are 2-1 against Denver this year, and I believe 2-1 against Minnesota, maybe 3-1. So like against the two best teams in the West currently, they have the tiebreakers. So if it comes down to seeding, they have tiebreakers over those teams. And B, it gives me hope, and it should give them hope that hey, we can hang with these teams. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, they might be taller, but so what? We've beat them. We can continue to do it.
for sure. Yeah, I agree with you as far as their ceiling, by the way. I mean, I've been picking them in my hot takes for Western Conference Finals and beyond. So I definitely think they are a team that if not this year, then in the next 2 to 3 years, they're going to be title contenders easily. So, and luckily, unlike, the Celtics or some other teams, they have plenty of years ahead to stay that way.
Yeah. The thing that I wish would happen is I think Sam Presti needs to make some serious moves, get a solid big man who can play the 5, move Chet to the 4. I would get rid of Josh Giddey just because I don't think he provides anything valuable to the team that we need. Like he doesn't play the point guard anymore because Shea has taken that over and is averaging almost 7 assists a game. And he doesn't shoot the ball well enough to be a shooting guard. So I just don't know what he's providing to this team that we couldn't go get somewhere else.
Yeah, I was about to say, if you want somebody to average 15 on and off the court, you could go get anybody but him. Oh, that was a bad
think
joke.
we can call Karl Malone.
That was a bad joke. Anyway, before I get canceled, let's move on. So I think this may come as a shock, but Caleb Williams is going to be the number 1 overall pick. I don't know why. I know you're not going to do this because you're at your desk, but I just expected that to be a spit take, like the way.
This is brand new information.
Right. So, obviously his college career, that he may not have the team accolades, but he has a Heisman. He was ridiculously good. He's got the intangibles as well. But what I want to know, do you think he's being overhyped, or do you think that the hype around him is legit?
Personally, I think he's overhyped. I think every time that I've watched him in college, it just nothing stuck out to me like this was some generational talent like he's being compared to by several different analysts all over ESPN and Fox and every other network, that he's being compared to like Andrew Luck and Trevor Lawrence as these like generational quarterbacks coming out of college. And it's just like nothing that I saw. Like, is he good? Yes. Is he the best quarterback in this draft? Absolutely.
Oh yeah. Well, to be fair, his best competition is, Jaden Daniels, Drake May.
Yeah. So like, is he the best quarterback in the class? Absolutely. But do I think that he is like he's gonna step in and in 3 years go to a Super Bowl? No. I mean, we saw Joe Burrow step into the Bengals, and the Bengals were a terribly run franchise. I mean, they hadn't won a playoff game in 31 years. his first full season being healthy, he took him to the Super Bowl.
Did you like that?
I'm
Did you
not
like that?
saying
Did
that
you like that little shot there? You said they were.
yeah.
You said they were a terribly run
I'm-
franchise. I said were.
All right. Well, I'm not saying that Caleb Williams has to step in and in his first, second, third season take the Bears to the Super Bowl, but there's got to be some sort of success pretty early on because we've seen a pat like Brock Purdy. I know he has a good team around him, but still has success. Jalen Hurts, success. Like all of these quarterbacks on their rookie deals have had success in the postseason. Maybe not winning a Super Bowl, but getting there.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it's ridiculous to say that Caleb Williams needs to come in and within 3 years have a couple playoff wins. And if he doesn't,
Easily.
I think that's kind of a disappointment.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when you are hyped up as the next Patrick Mahomes level talent, the next, Andrew Luck, stuff like that, you have to come in and succeed. I don't think he can afford to have a year one like Trevor Lawrence's first year. I don't, if they go 2-14 or 2-15, that's a disappointment just based on all the hype. And the team around him is better.
I would say anything under 500. He has to go 9-8.
Oh yeah, because the team around him is good. I mean, they won games with, not many, but they won games with Justin Fields.
Yeah.
I think I see the intangible stuff, and I definitely think, whenever I watched him, I think what you're saying is like he wasn't necessarily like nothing stood out as like a wow, oh my gosh. But at the same time, if you take him off of that USC team, they win a game. I mean, they were.
He won the Heisman because he had Jordan Addison. You took Jordan Addison away. What was he? He was a pretty. He was a fairly above average quarterback in college last year.
Well, in his defense, his defense also couldn't stop anybody.
that is true.
He was in shootouts with every team.
Yeah. But like the game that I can't get out of my mind is the Notre Dame game.
Oh, that was a bad game. That was a bad game. No, I agree with you. That was a bad game.
Like that just it left such a sour taste in my mouth when it came to when it comes to Caleb Williams, and it's just something that I can't get out of my head. It's like I know that quarterbacks have bad games, but that was just ugly.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It was rough. Originally I was going to say that I think the hype around him is a little too much, but it's close to that just right. But then Caleb Williams said that Aaron Rodgers is his football GOAT. What?
I'm just going to say, while I don't agree with it, I get it.
Get what?
Well, no, just get me out here. Simply because, obviously, I think we would both agree that Tom Brady is the greatest football player to ever touch a football. Right?
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't say, no, it's Ryan Tannehill.
Come on, bro. I'm not stupid.
But I get it because if you look at, like, just the tape, Aaron Rodgers is phenomenal to watch. He's so fun to watch.
It is funny that
he's like he's making plays. He's like that double Hail Mary against the Cardinals. Just like all of these different things that he does is fun to watch. Tom Brady, on the other hand, he's not going out rolling out to the pocket, throwing sidearm and throwing no-look passes and doing all this other stuff.
No, he's just winning 7 Super Bowls.
Yeah, it's just consistency, but it's not fun.
No.
It's not exciting. It's consistency, fundamentals, getting the ball to the right guy, and making the correct play. Aaron Rodgers does that, but he does it a lot flashier.
Well, he does that until it matters.
Yeah.
And I think
that's my
that would be
I get it.
That would be my major pushback on that on like Caleb's argument is like what has he done other than, I mean, he won MVP, sure. Statistically, he's great.
Won and been to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, statistically he's great. Like I'm not at all arguing his talent. He can't get it done. I mean, he talked all year about that year that Tampa rolled him in the NFC Championship. That he got his home championship game in Lambeau. This is what he's wanted his entire career. It was his moment. And what did he do in his moment? He pissed down his leg. Let's move on now to basketball. Caitlin Clark has broken Pete Maravich's NCAA all-time scoring record and then declared for the 2024 NBA draft or WNBA draft. Now she declared for the NBA draft.
She could probably play in the NBA.
I'm glad we were on the same page there. She now has 3,685 career points.
In 3 years.
In 3 years, which is nuts. Did you want to ask the question here, or do you want me to?
Yeah. How big is it for women's basketball and women's college basketball and the WNBA to have women like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and Paige Beckers all coming out of college and going into the league? I mean, these women provide headlines and must-see basketball on the women's side. Like, how big is it for the WNBA as a whole to be, all three of these? And there's obviously a bunch of other talented women going into the WNBA, but these three specifically coming into the league next year.
Well, I think it's huge, and I think it's huge for the exact reason that a lot of people were all up in arms about Angel Reese and like Haley Van Lith and a couple of the other ones that fiery energy, the attitude and all that. Like, we celebrate that in men's sports. I mean, like
when someone dunks
competitive.
over someone and flexes.
That's all we care about in men's sports. Yeah. Or, Tom Brady throwing his tablet down when something bad happens or yelling at one of his linemen or a player. Like, we call that competitive spirit and fire. But when women do it, it's oh, they're emotional. Oh, it's this and that. No, I think it's great. I think it provides great energy and passion into a product of the women's basketball that, I'll just be honest, has not been the most entertaining thing to watch over the last decade. I think having big names like this, I think it's great. We saw the Iowa LSU, the championship game. The viewership on that surpassed the men's national title game. It surpassed several of the NBA games, like Caitlin Clark's game where she broke the record had more viewers than Victor Wembanyama's debut. Like,
Victor Wembanyama was like
the next LeBron James.
James.
I think it says a lot about the direction of the WNBA, and it gives me a lot of hope that we're going to see the end of this attitude of like, oh, women's basketball is terrible, women's basketball is this and that. Like, I genuinely think that people like these athletes are truly going to change the game for better. As far as college goes, though, I think what helps women's college basketball is like the bad side of men's basketball, where the women's players stay in college for 3 to 4 years instead of the one and done model. So your fans, they grow to love players, instead of just like Kentucky fans, for example, like for Kentucky basketball, they care about the logo on the jersey. They care about University of Kentucky. But most fair weather fans or casual fans, they don't even know who's on the team year to year. Hell, I don't. I have to look up the roster all the time. And I would consider myself, I follow it more than a lot of people do, I'm sure. I think having that consistency in team, it really makes you it's almost like that pro setting, like with Russell Westbrook, for example, for you, where you can truly have a favorite player and like someone who, you can look up to and like follow as opposed to just like a program. So I definitely think women like these are great for the sport. I'm curious to your take on this as well.
Yeah, so I kind of have I do have to agree with you. So I think we can both agree that, women's basketball, just simply because they are women, is not it's not the same product as men's college and pro basketball. Simply because their athleticism is not the same, they can't jump as high, but you know, it's not the same and it's not as high flying, but the more and more that we see it becoming relevant because of players like Sabrina, how do you say her last name?
Ionescu.
Ionescu, and Caitlin Clark, and Angel Reese, and all of these players, it's amazing for the sport because yeah, they don't go out and tomahawk dunk and
God, could you imagine?
over a player like Giannis
Could you
does,
imagine
or
Angel Reese just tomahawk dunking on Caitlin Clark?
right? But like we don't see that. But like another reason to tune into men's basketball is because you see Steph Curry shooting 35-foot 3-pointers. Caitlin Clark does that.
Yeah.
Like I can't go dunk a basketball, but I can. Everybody that's played basketball has been like, oh, I want to be Steph Curry. I'm going to shoot from the logo. Like, so they're emulating that what Caitlin Clark is doing now. So I think it's massive for the sport because it's only going to increase viewership, which means they're going to be able to pay their top athletes more money, which means that these young girls that are deciding what sport they want to play, like, oh, do I want to play volleyball? Do I want to run track? Do I want to play soccer? They're going to be more attracted to basketball because they're going to say, I can make a living in this, because we're seeing that I'm sure Caitlin Clark 5 years from now is going to get a massive contract.
Oh yeah.
Assuming that her play style translates to the WNBA, which I don't see why it wouldn't. Which in turn means that we are going to get more girls interested in basketball, and it's going to attract better athletes and better players, and that means that further down the line, 10, 15, 20 years from now, we're going to get an even better product than what we have.
Absolutely.
So I think it's fantastic.
I agree wholeheartedly. And anyone who like is butthurt about women's basketball, stuff like that, just people just don't give them the time of day, man. Like people are always going to have their stupid takes, and women's basketball, I think we're about to see a major shift in the quality and just the excitement, and I'm ready for it. Yeah, I think it's gonna be fun.
I just wish that people would accept that while it's not the same game as the men's, because they're not throwing down dunks, it still can be just as entertaining.
And if anything, like, it's almost more like it can almost be more impressive because you get to see a lot more skills that aren't just being a freak of nature athlete and dunking,
Right.
Like, you take away dunking from Zion Williamson and he is terrible. But, so Zion Williamson's one of those players that could he stay healthy at all, his career is going to be 10 years maybe. Because once that athleticism starts to go away, it's done.
Yeah.
Whereas, WNBA or like players like Steph and like the newer style of game, they're going to play forever. So it's going to be exciting. Let's pivot to the NFL now. I got a nice lengthy free agent list here. So I'll just read them off really quick and then we'll talk about a couple. So we've got Chris Jones from the Chiefs, defensive tackle. Obviously Russell Wilson, quarterback for the Broncos. Saquon Barkley, the running back for the Giants. Christian Wilkins for the Dolphins. Devin White, linebacker for the Buccaneers. Patrick Queen, linebacker for the Ravens. Calvin Ridley, wide receiver for the Jaguars. Xavier Howard, corner for the Dolphins. Derrick Henry, running back for the Titans, who I just realized I didn't have on this list. Kirk Cousins, quarterback for the Vikings. Ryan Tannehill, quarterback for the Vikings. You like how I snuck that name on there?
Yeah.
Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs, both from the Seahawks. So, and if I missed anyone, my apologies. There's like 8,500 free agents happening right now. So, we said we'd get to Russell Wilson later. So, Which team do you think is the best fit for Russell Wilson? Some names I've seen thrown around are the Steelers, the Patriots, or the Vikings. Or would you pick another team?
Um, I don't think the Patriots. I would eliminate them simply because I don't think that Russ is good enough to elevate players around him. Specifically, the lack of talent that
I was going to say they've
the
got you and me at
the
wide
Patriots
receivers,
have.
so
I mean, yeah. Specifically, the lack of playmakers that are currently in New England. Now, obviously, if they get like Marvin Harrison Jr., that changes a little bit, but they still have two other wide receivers, a tight end, and a running back that all need addressed.
well, they got
I
Ezekiel
would
Elliott.
probably rule out. I would rule out the Patriots. The Steelers are interesting because they feel like they could be another one of those teams that is a quarterback away.
But
They
is
have
Russell Wilson
two.
that quarterback? That's the
I don't
question.
know. They have two good wide receivers. They have a solid running back room. They have a great tight end and a offensive line that really wasn't terrible last year. Do I think that Russell Wilson is a step up from Kenny Pickett? I would say so.
That's not saying much.
But is it a big enough step for them to contend with Deshaun Watson and the Browns and Joe Burrow? And if he goes to that division, he's still going like the Steelers are still going to have the fourth best quarterback out of the starting quarterbacks. I don't know.
Can I tell you a hot take that's not going to be one of my hot takes this week?
Sure.
I would take Mac Jones over Kenny Pickett. Mac Jones has at least proven he can go to the Pro Bowl. He had a 67% completion percentage that year and had like a 99 quarterback rating, or not a 99, but like a 90 quarterback rating that year. Like, he can at least be serviceable in the right system, and I think Tomlin is one of those coaches that could coach him up to that. He also, unlike in New England, would have some weapons to throw to. I'm not at all advocating for Mac Jones to the Steelers. I'm just saying if I had the choice between Mac Jones and Kenny Pickett, I think there's a compelling argument to take Mac Jones.
Yeah. So, given those three teams, I would probably go with the Vikings.
And I think the Vikings is honestly a really interesting fit there too. Mostly because they have a pretty good O-line. It's not like the best O-line, but like it's pretty good, and Russell Wilson can also move around still. So, you've got some young pieces there, and Justin Jefferson, assuming he re-signs. And I mean, if you could get him for $1 million and then re-sign Justin Jefferson to a huge deal, I think you'd do it. Out of this entire list of free agents, which player do you think is the most impactful for a team? Don't forget Derrick Henry's on this list too, because I didn't put him on there.
Oh, man, I would probably say, wait, is Danielle Hunter not a free agent?
Oh, he is. I just
okay.
Yeah,
you just deleted him, so
I replaced him with Derrick Henry.
Yeah, so I would probably throw a toss-up between Danielle Hunter and Chris Jones. Simply because you can never have enough pass rushers. It is such a huge position in the NFL that every team, regardless of who you have, I mean, you could have TJ Watt, Micah Parsons, and Nick Bosa on the same team, and you could still use another pass rusher because you still, all it takes is for those three guys to get double teamed, and your fourth guy's garbage. You're not getting pressure. No. So it doesn't matter who you are or what team you are. If you can get another pass rusher, you need to get another pass rusher. I would probably say either Chris Jones or Danielle Hunter.
You said
probably Chris Jones simply because he's better.
Yeah. You said double teamed. Hell, with the way the last few seasons have gone, you might not have all three of those guys get hurt too.
True.
I would agree with you. I think outside of that, I would say maybe Saquon or Derrick Henry. I mean, we watched Saquon literally carry the Giants' offense the last 2 years, and Derrick Henry. I mean, while he did take a bit of a step back, I still think a lot of that was on the Titans' O line not being able to stop anybody. I'm pretty sure I could have sacked Ryan Tannehill and Will Levis this year. So, when Derrick Henry's getting hit 2 yards in the backfield every single time he gets the ball, you're not going to do much. So, I definitely think if it's not one of the two guys you said, then it's like one of the two running backs I mentioned, or maybe Kirk Cousins, but at this stage of his career, I don't know. So, any final thoughts on free agents? Any names that you think would be fitting anywhere?
I know one of my hot takes was that Saquon was going to sign with the Texans, but I would be very, very shocked if he doesn't go to the Chargers.
Yeah,
Simply
I think a lot of
because-
signs are pointing that way.
Simply because we both know that Jim Harbaugh wants to run the football. Like, that's what he instills in his offense. So, given the fact I don't know what's going on with Austin Eckler, Saquon Barkley is a fantastic running back, and so I'd be kind of shocked if he doesn't end up with the Chargers.
I think Austin Eckler is a free agent.
I think so too.
So, but also, I don't know that Austin Eckler is at the point of his career where I would be like wanting to sign him to a huge deal.
Yeah, me neither.
So, all right. Well, let's wrap up the episode this week with hot takes. I have 3.
And I only have 1.
Perfect. Well, why don't you do your 1 and then I'll knock out my 3.
Sounds good. My hot take is that I think it will be a massive disappointment if the Boston Celtics do not win the NBA title this year. It kind of just feels like everything is lining up for them, specifically in the East, where, Embiid is hurt. The Knicks can't really stay healthy. Like, Jalen Brunson's banged up. Julius Randle's banged up. So they can't really stay healthy. The Bucks, they're good, but, do we trust Dame and Giannis to get it together? They just had to fire a head coach.
I will say the Bucks have won
their
like
defense is kind of eh.
the Bucks have won I think 5 straight or something like that now. So I mean, they are starting to figure it out, but I still agree with you there. The Miami Heat, the Cavs.
The Magic, they're still young. So I just think everything is lined up for them to, they have to make it to the NBA Finals. And I think if you're Jason Tatum and you want to prove you're a top 5 player in this league, you have to win a championship this year.
I agree with you, and honestly, I'll take it a step further. I think if they don't win the title this year, it's a colossal failure.
Yeah, that was my massive disappointment.
Yeah, because, I mean, like you said, their competition in the East, they've got, take your pick. Joel Embiid, who was the reigning MVP, a Joel Embiid-less Sixers team. You've got a Bucks team with Dame and Giannis that has been pretty bad defensively since Dame got there, but just overall this year. The Miami Heat, a Knicks team, there's not the Miami Heat. I was trying to give you the Browns energy.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, the Heat are it's postseason time, and they turn into the greatest show on hardwood. So
you probably could have just said the '96 Chicago Bulls, but
well, yeah.
So no, I like your hot take. Here are mine. Number 1, the Los Angeles Lakers should be considered title contenders this season. So they match up well with Denver, like I said. They do have the length to defend them, which is what you have to defend them. However, I did say earlier, and I stand by this, it will take a perfect series from the Lakers to beat Denver. But I think if the Lakers beat Denver, I think it's their title to lose. Obviously, they could, Denver could get upset or something earlier on, and then it wouldn't matter. But my second hot take, and this one is the much less spicy one. The Atlanta Falcons will be a second-round playoff team next season if they get Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins makes them good enough to win their first playoff round. I think they win their division, and then depending on who they match up with, I think they catch a team off guard, or they're either going to catch a team off guard or it's going to be Dallas, and they'll just upset and they'll just beat them outright. So that's my second one, and then my third hot take. Are you ready for this?
Oh boy, I don't even know what this is because you just said surprise.
Yeah, I said surprise, shoddy with a smiley face in the notes.
So, oh boy, here we go. Let me just buckle in.
Without Steph Curry, Kevin Durant would not be top 25 all time. He is the Dak Prescott of the NBA without Steph Curry. Hear me out. He's a great individual player. I can't take anything away from them there, but he does not elevate his teammates. He has had many all-time greats with him, and without Steph Curry and the greatest regular season team ever that he had down 3-1, that's the only time he has won a title. Everywhere else he's been, and he has been with a lot of greats. He had James Harden. He had Kyrie Irving. He's had Devin Booker now and Bradley Beal. And they've never even been Russell Westbrook. They've never even been a threat. His Nets tenure was a disaster. The Suns can't stay healthy, and they don't play a lick of defense. His best chance at a title was the Thunder with Russ in 2016, and he couldn't do it. So,
are you talking outside of the Warriors?
Yeah, I said that without Steph Curry and them.
Well, you said like his best chance at a title was with Russ.
I'm talking about outside of the Warriors.
His
Yes,
best chance for a
my
title
my hot take is without the Warriors, he would not be top 25 all time. Because if you take away the Warriors, he is a one-time MVP, and like however many All-Star, stuff like that, but 0 rings. I just don't think. I think he is immensely talented, and I think individually, like if he was playing 1v1, he would beat any player in history. I would take Kevin Durant over just about any player in history. I can't. Maybe LeBron could beat him one-on-one, but even then, I don't know, because Kevin Durant is just disgusting.
I think the only reason LeBron would win that one-on-one is I think
physicality.
He's a better defender.
Right. But as a team, he doesn't elevate a team to championship level. So, I know that's a very spicy hot take, but I really feel like with my reasoning, like I don't feel like I'm wrong. Like I actually don't feel like I'm being that outrageous.
Okay.
I'm just looking at the Suns, like they're falling apart right now. Like Devin Booker's hurt. They're the 7 seed right now. Like they don't scare me. And Kevin Durant, I think we looked at his entire career as one of those players that if he's on a team, that team scares you.
To be fair, he is 36 right now.
That's true.
He's up there.
He's 36, but he's weirdly, because he's missed a lot of time to injury too.
Yeah.
That's the other
I don't know
thing.
if he's that old. He's up there, though.
I think he might be 34, 35, something like
that. He is 35.
Yeah. So, I mean, you weren't too far off. But I think we would look at his career, and I mean, obviously, this is going to sound stupid a little bit, but we would look at his career in a much different vein if he didn't go to Golden State and win 2 titles.
Yeah. Cupcake.
So... Anyway, I thought of that earlier, and I was like, "Oh, Justin's gonna love this." Yeah, your reaction.
I don't know. I don't know.
Weren't ready for that one, were you?
At first, I was kind of like, "What?" And then you explained yourself, and I'm like,
I mean, hold up, let him cook, like,
right?
like,
Like,
I mean,
maybe he's onto something.
I still might burn the meal. We don't know yet, but like, he's one of those players that, a lot of the, Steph proved the doubters wrong because he won a championship without Kevin Durant after Kevin Durant left, and he won the Finals MVP. Like, he proved a lot of doubters wrong. But if Kevin Durant supposedly carried Steph Curry to 2 rings, where is this magic? Like, you can't tell me that the superstars he's had around him can't at least equal Steph Curry's greatness. Like, he had James Harden and Kyrie Irving, and that team was awful.
Yeah, and now he has Bradley Beal and Devin Booker, and they're the 7th seed.
And that team is awful. Like, it's just, I don't know, man. I know he's gotten some unlucky breaks with injuries and everything, but we put this like pressure on these all-time greats of like they should be able to carry their team, like Steph Curry gets killed because whenever he lost Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson in a finals, he got beat by the Raptors. Everybody kills him, and it's like, what was he supposed to do? His next best player.
You're telling me he didn't drop 70?
Yeah, his next best player in that series was like Andre Iguodala. So
like 37-year-old Andre Iguodala.
Yeah, like. Anyway, yeah, nope. I
think that wraps it up.
That does wrap it up. That I think might go down as one of my hottest takes. And if we are still doing the rundown whenever Kevin Durant retires, I would love to pull this one out of the archives and revisit it.
Yeah,
because it's either going to be, damn, he was right, or is the man? It's
right.
It's going to be one of those.
Kevin Durant naturally is now going to go win like 3 championships in a row with the Suns.
Well, he's actually going to win 3 championships in a row, retire, and then come back and win 3 more in a row. And then he'll be the GOAT.
All right, MJ.
Yeah. All right. And on that note, I think that sums it up. So, on behalf of Justin, I'm Ben. Thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and also wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, guys, thanks so much and have a good one.